here. So just do a quick video today. I've only been turning for about 4.5, 5 weeks, and I've very quickly come to the realization that having sharp tools, it's critical. You just can't do what you need to do if your tools are dull. And when I come to this realization, which was shortly after I started doing this, I watched a lot of videos on how to sharpen by hand, because I'm a cheapskate and I don't want to spend anywhere from $100 to $300 on a sharpening system. So I tried doing it by hand, and though I actually got pretty good at doing it by hand, I quickly come to the realization that doing it with a jig and a sharpening station that is made to do just exactly that, sharpen your tools, is a whole lot more effective way to do it. But like I said, I'm a cheapskate, and I really had a hard time going out and buying the tools that you need to. I found a couple of good websites out there on how to sharpen tools. Mike Walt, Carl Jacobson, Lyle Jameson, Captain Eddie, Brandon Stemp, Robbie the Woodturner, all those guys out there that are doing extremely good videos on wood turning have all got very good videos on how to sharpen. And in fact, Robbie the Woodturner has even got, in his video, he shows some homemade bull gouge and spindle gouge jigs that he made. Captain Eddie's got a video out there on how to build a jig for sharpening your gouges for like $2. And then what I'm going to talk about is a guy who made a video on how to build this sharpening jig. His name is Marius Hornberger. He's a German gentleman, and he's got a very informative YouTube video out there on how to build this jig, and I'm going to show it to you in better detail here in a little bit. But the thing that I really liked about his videos is there's a link on his video that has a fully downloadable set of plans, and cut them out, stick them to the wood templates on how to build this thing, which for me is real good, because I'm not a terribly good woodworker yet. I'm learning it. I'm a steel guy. You give me steel, I'll build you anything you want. You give me wood, I'll build you sawdust. That I can guarantee you, but whether it's going to be an actual usable project is another story. I'm learning. But this was extraordinarily well put together. So props to you, Mr. Hornberger. You did a nice job. I'll put a link to the video, the YouTube video, at the bottom here, just like I always try to do. And I'll put a bunch of other links too for Mike and Robbie and Carl and Lyle and Brendan and everybody out there that I've watched who have done sharpening videos. They're all great. They all have their own little techniques. Robbie's got one technique that I really like that I'll just let you watch his video so you can see it, utilizing a Sharpie marker. That was kind of a neat idea. But anyway, I'll put all their links at the bottom. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to relocate the camera. I'm going to show you quickly how I built my rig, and I'm not going to show you how to sharpen because that's already been done, and I'm not going to try and recreate the wheel. I just want to show you how I built my setup. So let's relocate the camera and take a look. Alright, so first thing, let's go over my base unit real quick. I got a basic $50 Home Center 8-inch grinder. You can tell it's not a real spendy grinder because it takes a while for it to spool up, but once it gets going, she's going good. But what I did was I took my grinder and I carriage bolted it to a base here, a plywood base, and then I screwed this plywood base to the bottom of the board from the underneath. And I did that because the bolt head sticking out on the bottom, I didn't want them resting on my work surface here. I wanted this to be sitting fairly flat. So there's actually a little gap in here. If I take a piece of paper, I can show you there's a space right in here, and that's because of the bolt heads. So I didn't want that space on the board here, so I screwed this board as kind of an intermediate mounting. And then what I did was I built this slider, which is extremely simple. It's 1.5 a piece of 1.5 inch wide poplar. Very inexpensive wood. I actually bought this at a local home center. Made this slider, and I put a V-notch in here because you need to have that. Nothing real fancy. And I also put a little divot in there to set the tip of my gouge jig in there. Very, very simple. I used a 5/16 inch router bit to route this out. Actually, no, a 3/8 inch router bit to route this out. I took and I screwed a 1/2 inch piece of plywood to the baseboard here and a 1/2 inch piece of plywood to the baseboard here. Had I been thinking, I would have cut this board or this piece of plywood far enough to come all the way out, but I wasn't thinking very good. So, but anyway, this works just fine. Then I drilled a hole here, and I installed in that hole where my knob screws into. On the bottom side of that hole is one of those. Zoom in on that. This is what's called a pronged T-nut, and it's a threaded nut, and you drill your hole, and I installed it from the bottom side. I can zoom back out now. I installed it from the bottom side of the board, and that's what my knob threads into, right into here. So you don't have any kind of funky hardware or anything. It's nice flush fit. And so I set my slider in here, and it slides in real nice. Set my knob. So now I'll just grab my spindle gouge here. Set it up so your angle is correct. Turn the grinder on. I kind of rest my hand on the old tool rest support right here, and you grind your jig just like that. Nothing to it. Very, very simple. Very light pressure, and like I said, I'm not going to get into the grinding aspect on it. One, I'm not qualified, and two, there's a ton of other people out there doing a far better job, and I don't need to show you. I'm not going to recreate the wheel. Very, very simple though. I mean, it's nothing to this base system. Anybody can build this out of scrap wood with a minimal amount of tools and some basic hardware that you can buy at your home center. But that prong T-nut is kind of the key, if you will, to getting this knob threaded in. Now, I've seen guys who've put 2 knobs in here and done away with these strips. You can certainly do that as well. This is what I wanted to do. And this, I bought this plywood. I bought a 2x2 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. I bought it at the home center for $5. This knob was like $2, a couple of fender washers, and that package of prong T-nuts. I think I've got less than $10 tied up into this piece right here, the base. So now we've got our bowl gouge and our spindle gouge jig that Marius Hornberger. God, I hope I'm saying that, Marius. If I'm not saying your name right, I apologize. I'm just trying to give you your due credit because you did an excellent job. I can't stress how nice his plans were to make this. This is a pretty slick deal. It's fully adjustable, very nice. I'm not going to go into the build of it because Marius has got a really good video out there on how to build this thing, and I'm not going to even get into it. But this thing, with the hardware, some scraps we had laying around, and that you can literally build this out of scraps. There's a minimal investment involved in this. You make your own, and near as I can tell, this will work just fine for sharpening your gouges, your bowl gouges and your spindle gouges. The only thing I did differently from Marius's video was, one, he does actual on his plans on how to build these knobs out of wood. If you're really into that, if you really want to do this on the cheap, you can actually build these knobs according to his plans. Now, I just went and bought knobs at my home center. They're plastic knobs, one there, one there. This one I actually drilled a hole through it so that the bolt could protrude through, because this is a carriage bolt and it slides into that notch right like that. And so I drilled a hole through here just so that the bolt could protrude through. It's the same knob as this one, just a little modification. And I used a fender washer. But the other thing I did differently, and let me see if I can get this on camera, when Marius built his, he actually threaded the hole here where this goes through this top piece. And what I did was, again, let me see if I can get it, let me work that camera, there it is. Right there, you can see inside there, I used a 1/4 inch pronged T-nut, again, another T-nut. And that seems to be, Marius, he threaded the wood and that seemed to be working for him, but I had a little concern that that wood might strip, especially with that fine of a thread on the bolt. So I just installed this T-nut, the same kind of thing. Again, if you really wanted to do this on the cheap, you could thread it just like he did, and it seemed to be working just fine. But on this one, I did another T-nut, and it's the same thing as the Wolverine jigs, the woodcut jigs. They're the same as the guys that are building these things in a factory out of a box and send them to you in a box. It's just building your own. So if you want to save yourself a few bucks, all told, right here, this entire thing with the grinder, the wood, the knobs, everything, I got less than $75 tied up into this. If you buy just a sharpening system, I guarantee you're going to spend at least $100 and probably upwards of $250 or $300, including the grinder, for some of these systems out here. And what you see here, I've got less than $75 US tied up into this. And I tried it right away, of course, and there you go. It's a single facet grind. It does an absolutely phenomenal job on how to do it. And there are videos out there on how to sharpen. Like I said, I'm not going to recreate the wheel. You can look at the other guys. But the whole key is to get that grind the way it's supposed to be. And you want proof that it's sharp. It's sharp enough to take layers of skin off my finger. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not, but at any rate, it can take layers of skin off my finger. Now, this wheel here is a 100 grit gray wheel, and I do not recommend this for sharpening. I have it. It's what came with the grinder. It's not the 80 grit. This is a little finer. This is a 100 grit. It's doing the job, and it's certainly better than what I had. I have a 120 grit aluminum oxide white wheel coming for this grinder, because I need a better wheel. This wheel is a little too coarse. It does fine. It puts a pretty good edge on that chisel, and it'll dig pretty nice. But this is not the wheel for sharpening. You want a white wheel and you want a finer grit. But with that being said, so I think I paid $40 for the wheel, and I believe it's a little wider wheel than what this one is. But that being said, you can build a sharpening station for less than $75 US money. I've done it. I did it right here, and you could probably get away with it even cheaper than that. I bought all the hardware new. If you got hardware laying around the shop, you can probably get away for doing it for practically next to nothing. Check out Marius's website on how to build this jig. It's extremely well detailed. The templates are free. The plans are free, completely downloadable on a PDF document. Print them off. It's 90% foolproof. If you follow his plans, you cannot mess them up. But I'm here to tell you that I've done it, and I've got myself a sharpening system now for well under $100. But I spent less than $75 US, and that's including the cost of my grinder. So anyway, enough of that. Check out these other guys' videos. You got so many people out there that are doing great jobs on how to sharpen them. I'll put all their links in the bottom in the description down there. Check out Marius. Lyle Jameson's got a real nice video on it. Mike Walt, who has been doing excellent videos for quite a number of years now. He's my go-to guy. I kind of frequent his a lot. He does a lot of good work. Captain Eddie's got some good stuff out there on how to sharpen. Brendan Stemp, Carl Jacobson, Robbie the Woodturner, check those guys out. Frequent their videos. I do, and they've taught me a ton. And I'm sure that if you're just a beginning woodturner, they will have plenty of information to give you guys as well. So, at any rate, this is Ed again signing off, saying thanks. Check out my other videos. Subscribe to my channel, please, if you would. If you don't like what I'm doing out here, please give me some constructive criticism so I can make some changes. But if you do like the video, please hit the like button and check those other guys' videos out. They do some good work, and give them the credit for doing the work that they're doing. All right, have a good day.